I'm Bill, and I'm celebrating 39 years of sobriety as of December 11th, 2024. Many people ask me how I did it, and I say that I did it with lots of discipline, lots of heartaches. In the beginning, when I was 25, when I quit, I had nightmares of beers, tallest trees. I could smell the beer. I could hear it and see it in my mind. And my sponsor always said to get rid of those thoughts and things is to read the big book, which I did day in and day out. My sponsor said that when I put my life into drinking, and now that I stopped, I put my life now into not drinking and drug day in and day out. It isn't just an hour meeting from 7 to 8 or 7:30 to 8:30. It's not just an hour noon meeting. It's every day. As soon as I get up to the time that I go to bed, and when there's time that I don't want to go, that's when I should go, because that's what my sponsor always said, that there may be something going on deep inside. I had a lot of unforgiveness in my life, because I was born with club feet, born deaf, and borderline retardation, taken out of my home at 3, taken to residential school, and abused in every which way, and then taken out of residential school and put into the foster care system. But before this, when I was in residential school, because of my club feet, 2 club feet, I had to walk around with crutches. And I saw the principal, who was actually the main priest. I walked over to him and I kicked him in the shins, and I said I wanted to go home in my own little way. Well, he looks at me with fierce anger, and he puts his hand on my arm and he drags me over to the basement door, and he looks at me for what he thought would be the last time, and puts his hand on my back, and he pushes me down, and I go rolling down. As I roll down, if you believe in angels as I do, that an angel came, and he put his hand behind my neck and his other arm under my legs, and he rolled with me, and he gently tossed me down at the bottom of the step, and he leaves. Well, the principal, the main priest, saw that I was still alive, goes running down the steps, grabs my arm, and he throws me into a cage, 5x5 cage, like an animal, and he handcuffs my legs to the cage. And today I asked, what are you doing with handcuffs? Only the RCMP are allowed to have handcuffs by law. And there was understanding between church and state that to eliminate or do something with these Indians. And we're considered dirty, smelly, no good. Why are we here? Why do we exist? And everything. And the principal, after he locks me up in the cage, goes up to his office, talks about me like everyone else has talked about me throughout my life on what to do with Billy. And they determined that I should be transferred out. I guess using the excuse of they don't want a person with club feet and deaf. So I was taken to the Supreme Court, and after sitting in the Supreme Court, the judge makes me ward of the court, and then I'm handed over to social service. And social service grabs my arm like the nuns did and puts me into the car, and I'm whisked off to who knows where. The only foster parents that I really remember are the Williams, the late Williams now, and the social worker who dropped me off talked to me, I guess forgetting that I can't hear, but she hands me a teddy bear, which I still have today. His name is Boo Boo. Of all the things that happened in my life, house broken into, apartment broken into, things trashed after parties, that Boo Boo was always thrown to the side. And when I got home, and I teased Boo Boo, I said, Boo Boo, what did you do now? Anyways, I was in the Williams. I couldn't walk over to the step, and so the social worker carried me over and put me at the top of the front porch step. And I remember a little kid running across the street, and He looks at me, examines me like a scientist would. I don't know what he was doing. But anyways, the only thing that I really remember being at the Williams is that Mrs. Williams was always yelling and screaming and arms flashing around. She was never happy. That's what I always saw. Being hit, abused, and all the other way. But as also said, don't listen to the negative, otherwise it'll drag you down. What I remember of Mrs. Williams is that what I've learned is that no matter who you grew up with, parents, guardians, foster parents, grandparents, whoever, is that you always pick up something from them. And what I picked up is advocacy. She was always yelling at the doctors to get my legs and ears looked at. And after 2 years, the doctor said that, oh, all right, we'll look at his feet and ears. So I was sent to specialists in the Nano in Victoria, and after the report came back, after a couple of weeks, it was determined that, yes, I would be able to have operations, but they weren't guaranteeing that I would actually walk straight or even hear. It was only by the grace of God that I did hear after a series of operations, 6 to be exact. I spent most of my childhood in the hospital, in and out, while still going to elementary school. Anyways, I had a series of operations on both feet and ears, and they broke all the bones in my feet, and they grafted in new bones to make my feet straight. Painful. They never had the painkillers that they do today, so I was always crying. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, that I do have an enemy, that I wouldn't wish on people. It was very, very painful, and I was always crying. And what I remember is that my bed faced the door, and what I remember seeing is an angel standing there, because I could see through her, and she comes floating over to me to my bedside, and she goes into human form, and she sits on my bed, and she holds me until I fall asleep. And this is what she did for me with my feet and ears. The first time that I heard, I was 10 years old, and the first time I heard, I was 12 years. And when Social Service found out when I was 13 that I was walking and hearing, that they brought the money of what the late Williams were getting, a lot of money, down to money of the day of what foster parents get, $300-400, I don't know, a month. Well, the Williams didn't like that, so they kicked me out. And when I went to my social worker, she said, well, I'm sorry, we couldn't find. This is 9 months after I first heard. How do you know what this was? A knock at the door. And I asked, what is that? And she said, oh, it's a knock on the door. And I said, well, what's a knock on the door? She said, well, somebody knocks on that door that you came in, and I let them in. And later she tells me that they couldn't find any foster home, so I was put on independent living. 2 weeks after I was on my own, I went for a Sunday afternoon walk, and after 2 hours of walking, I sat at the bench, and the van pulls up, and he rolls his window down, and he says, hey, can you direct me to where he needs to go? And I pointed, because I wasn't in the mood for talking, pointed, because I was in deep thought of where my life was at. I was angry at the world, and social workers, the foster parent. The guy goes driving off, he stops, and he backs up, and he stops at where I'm sitting, and he says, well, can you go with me and show me, and I'll promise that I'll drop you off wherever you want to go. So I did. I wish I didn't. I know that now. I get in the van, and he starts driving. I'm driving, and he never drops me off where I wanted to get off. And he takes me up to the mountain, and he drives for a little while, and he stops. We're in the gravel road on the mountain, halfway up the mountain. He pulls out a knife, puts it to my throat, says, take off your clothes, otherwise I'm going to kill you. I was thinking, well, not really understanding of what he was doing and why. Because I took my clothes off, and he did what he did. He starts driving off, and while he's driving, he tells me to get out, and I look out the window. He says, well, if I get out, I'm going to die for sure, because I'm rolling on gravel road. I open up the door and look out, and I'm scared, and I jump out, and I'm getting scraped and cut and everything, and the angel came. And again, he puts his hand on my head and his arm under my leg. He rolls with me, and he gently puts me down. But before this, he actually, as I'm rolling like this, that he controls my head, making me look at the license plate. And I only remember the last 3 digits. When I stopped rolling, and I was put down gently by the angel on the gravel road, sat there in my own blood, crying, and the only thought that I came was that I wanted to die. Throughout my life, hearing people getting raped and abused, one of the first thoughts is that they want to die. And as I sat there, an angel said, well, what do you want to do? And I was crying. I'm not crying now. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to die. And I would continue crying. And he says, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to die. And the angel said gently, he says, well, what do you want to do? I stopped crying, I thought about it, and I looked around, I get up, I stand, and I say, I want to live. And I walked home, and I was cut, bruised, bleeding. When I got home to where I lived, neighbors came and asked, well, what are you doing today, coming home naked, and why are you like that? And I said, well, I was kidnapped by a man, taken up to the mountains, raped, and almost killed. And he left me up there for dead. The people phoned the police came over, and the only police I wanted to talk to was a woman. And I told her what had happened, and I gave her the last 3 digits of the van and the color and the description. And they looked for the van. They found him 2 weeks later. He was getting ready to go on to his next victim, and he had memorabilia on his wall, all the boys that he raped, including mine, whatever he took. I get summoned to the court, and when I get to court, I was scared because I've seen him. Court calls me up to identify him and asks if is he in the courtroom? And I said, yes, he's right there. Before this, let me tell you that I had to walk by him, and he said, well, I didn't pull you up from the mountains, but I will kill you when I get out. And I rushed to the chair, and once I identified him, I was let go, and I ran out of the court, and I lived my life in fear. The life I lived in fear is that I couldn't go out at night, couldn't be in the dark. I slept with a mini light on. When I got home from school, I left the door open, and I checked my closet, I checked under the bed, because I only had a one-room place with a bed and a lamp. And I looked under my bed, and I made sure the window thing was locked, and I ran to the door, and I put a chair underneath the doorknob. And that's how I lived my life up until I was 40. After that time, I had nightmares of him as tall as trees with a knife, and he was going to kill me. When I got to the point of 40 that this was it, that I didn't want to go through it anymore, and I wanted to go up to the mountains. And when I moved from Vancouver, B.C. to Nanaimo, B.C., that's where I met my now wife, Sylvia. And when I told her what had happened, she was crying and said that you're a brave person. And she hugged me. And I tell her that, well, we need to go up to the mountain. I need to forgive him. And I written on a piece of paper saying that I forgive you and I let you go, and I put it in my pocket. When we drove up to the mountain and got there, and I looked around, and I could see the man, I could see the van, I could see what he was doing. Reached into my pocket, and I stretched out my hand, said, I forgive you, and I let you go. And I let go of the paper. And I lived my life in peace from that. And it was almost as the Spirit did me, because I heard something leave me, go, and everything, and I lived my life in peace. While I was living in Nanaimo with my wife, at times I was depressed, and undepressed. She says, what's wrong? I said, well, I missed the acting. I was an actor, background actor in Vancouver. The last movie that I was in was called Like Closet, if you are interested in watching. And she says, well, she puts her hand on her hip. She says, well, why don't you start your own film company? And I thought that was ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. And she slaps me and says, well, everybody said you couldn't walk, you couldn't hear, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, and you did it. What's the difference with this? So I went online and checked on the government site to register it, and It was way too much money, and I couldn't afford it at the time because I was on disability. I get an email a few days later, almost a week later, saying from the government people that we saw that you went on our website and we have a deal for you. Went on to saying what a deal they can give me. And normally when governments like that, I thought, well, it'd probably be $5-10 off. And I went on and I scrolled through the email and at the end, this is the deal. And I looked at it, wow. $39. And so I immediately went on the website and I registered my company, and at that time I called it BGW Film, which I was happy, and then said, now you have to register with the city. So I paid it online. I was a registered company now with BGW Film. So then I did filming and then IMO, and as time went on, we were running a drop-in center as well. When I first opened, that had actually had nobody the first night. As time went on, one person came in, he pokes his head in, says, do you have coffee? And I said, yes. Come on in. So he comes in for a coffee, we had muffins and other things, and he sits down on the couch, and long story short, we were running a drop-in center with, 20, 30, 40 people coming in every day, and we had a small dog named Ace. He's gone now, and he was loving, caring. He came from an abusive home. He was fearful of humans, and it's advised that feeding a lab dog, that one person feeds him. And so Sylvia fed him. But the dog leaves sleeplessly, and he walks off, and he's over by the wall, and Sylvia grabs the dish, and she walks off to the kitchen, and she gets dog food, and she comes back, and she puts the dog food down, and then Ace comes to eat it. Well, eventually he becomes friendly, and he trusts us, and he became a loving dog. Everybody loved him. We served special dinners, birthdays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the last dinner that we had over 400 people at our Christmas dinner, and then we had to close because the owner sold the building. We left, and my sister says, well, why don't you move to Gold River to help your brother? And I said, okay, I'll have to talk to Sylvia. And I gave her a rose. She says, what now? Maybe what now? I love you. Anyways, I said, well, my sister says that we should move to Gold River to help my brother. She thinks about it, okay, because everywhere we checked in the NAMA was expensive, and it's even more expensive now here in 2024. And we moved to Gold River, and we had Ace, Sylvia's cat, Buddy, and my cat, Jupiter. Sylvia moves in first. We had a band member help us with a flat deck to move our things, and I stayed behind one more night to clean our almost one room. We had a small, very, very small bedroom and a very small bathroom. And I stayed behind to make sure everything was clean and everything in order. And then I gave the key to the landlord, drove to Gold River. While we were living in Gold River, this is a funny story that it was snowing one time. I walked off and I drove people to Campbell River, BC, to go to take them shopping. And then we get back, I get inside, I take my boots off and coat, and I go up to my office. Sylvia opens up the door, and she's dumbfounded. And she's looking, and she's going outside, and she comes inside. Billy, come here. So we're running down the steps, and what? And she says, look. And I said, what? I look down, and she says, oh, there's elk trails. I said, oh, yes, they look like elk trails. And other people are coming, so what's going on? She said, oh, we have elk trails, and everybody's looking too. Oh, yeah, you do. Oh, you guys are lucky. And even the dog came over to look. To be long story short, one day, Sue and I drive to Campbell River shopping, and it was snowing. And while we're walking in the snow, we get almost to the car, and she's looking at my feet. It had the same footprints as the footprint at our front door. So she hits me, says, it's your shoe, your boots. And so we both laugh. And other stories that we have is that I took some young people to come over to shopping, and on our way back, about 10 minutes, 12 minutes out of Gold River, they said they had to pee. So we stopped, and they pulled over, and they went to pee. And I looked over, and I said, oh, there's a bear. And so I grabbed my camera, and I walked across the road, and I took a picture, but I was still too far away, so I crossed the ditch, and I took another picture. I was still too far away, so I went in deeper, and I took another picture, and it was still too far away. And so I walked in deeper, and I got close to not too close, from here to maybe where the clock is, you see. As I'm taking the picture, the bear looks at me, and just as that kind of look of, can I help you? I'm busy. He was saying approve. Other stories I have on Highway 28 is that when Phil and I were going to church, on our way there, I seen what you call the ravens circling, and I was wondering, why are they circling? So I drove very slowly to where he was flying over, and I pulled over, and I went over to the ditch across the road. It was an eagle with a rabbit or whatever in his claw, and that's what the raven wanted. So I went to my car, and I grabbed my camera, and I pointed the camera up to the raven, and I guess he thought I was going to kill him, shoot him, so he goes flying off. And I go back, and the eagle was already on the road, and he took 1-2 steps, stretched his wings like an airplane, and they're as wide as the road, huge. And he goes flying off, and so I get back in the car thinking nothing of it, and he comes back, and he's just an eagle, and he's flying around us, and he gets over to the driver's side, and he flies by the windshield, drives by the windshield, and he goes like this, as if to thank me for saving him. And he flies up, wishes up into the sky straight up, and he comes back, and he's flying beside our car where Sylvie is, the passenger side. And he's flying with us. And every time I went to Campbell River, he sees me from afar off, because they can see for miles. And he pushes up off the tree, and he goes flying by me, and I guess he's like really happy, and he's doing his thing, and he's flying around us, and he goes flying off, happy. Anyways, a friend of ours, Roy, on the Lake Merrimack, asked us, Roy asked if he wanted to move with him. And I said, they were looking for someone that doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs, doesn't smoke, and doesn't party, doesn't know that he's a quiet person. So there's a long pause, and I say, are you sure you got the right person? And he laughs, says, oh, Billy. He says, well, I'll have to ask Sylvie. And I'll get back, I go to leave, and I go to the flower shop at Super Value. It's gone now, but I went to Super Value to get a flower, and I go back to our place, and I tell her to close her eyes, and I put out her hand, and I put a flower on. So she looks at the flower, she's almost crying and everything, and she stops crying, she has a frown. Okay, what do you want? What do you mean, what do I want? Roy wants us to move with him in a house that we would live in the basement for a low cost. And Sylvia says yes. I said, oh, okay. So I quickly phoned Roy and said, yes, we can move. And I would have to find someone else to help us move. And she said, no, forget it, this furnace. And so we left our stuff, we moved to what we had of our stuff to the place, and it was stormy. Trees were like this, and it was really, really stormy that day. Wind was... You could see the trees and branches flying off into the distance on the road, and people couldn't walk, and animals were trying to walk, and they were getting washed off, and they looked at Silver, wow, I think this is probably spirit. So we go outside, we look, and I said, be gone in Jesus' name. All of a sudden, the wind stopped. Anyways, we lived there for a few months. Roy got an invite from a friend of his who runs an apartment. Asked Roy if he could be the landlord. Asked Roy if he wants to be the landlord, and Roy says yes. We're at the house in the basement by ourselves, and then Roy phones us and says, well, why don't you guys move into the apartment? So we did. Laura and Merrick have always been good friends, and they've always been good to us, especially Sylvia. The late Merrick always loved Sylvia. The kind of things that, that the three W's of, what happened, what it was like, and what it's like now, is that what it was like, I was a terrible drunk in every which way, and what it's like now is that Sylvia and I, we go out every Christmas, and before this, we ask churches, individuals who advertise for gloves, hats, scarves, coats, toys for kids. We always thank church that gave us Christmas gifts, wrapped already, and we thank them. And other individuals and organizations gave us a box of stuff, a bag of stuff. Roy and Meredith always help us wrap things that need to be wrapped. And we wrap things according to age, socks, underwear, shirts, sweaters, coats, hats, and we wrapped it in toys for kids. And we went out Christmas morning. Roy and Meredith came out with us to hand out Christmas presents to three people. At times, the three people would cry and thought nobody loved them. They were never given presents on Christmas morning. And I've been doing this since I was 25. That the big book says to find something to do, something else. And my sponsor said, well, help. And so the way I helped people was to give out Christmas presents, and that's what I did. Other things that we did is we handed out sandwiches, cold drink like water in the summer because it gets really hot, and in the winter we gave out hot chocolate. At that time, the three people only ate one. That three people, when they're get sad, it's usually a bowl of soup and maybe a sandwich, and you can't live like that. And so Sylvia and I handed out sandwiches and drink. When my sponsor says go out and help people, it helps myself. And when I did go out to help people, I went out to what's called the Four Shores on the ocean front here in Campbell River. Most of the people on the streets were First Nations people who happened to be my relatives, and they always used to say, what the bleep and bleep do you want? Who the bleep and bleep do you think you are? Telling us, I didn't tell them what to do, but they all you think you're all that. Anyway, as time went on, to minister to people, whether they're living on the streets or not, sometimes I find you don't need to say anything, you just sit with them, help them. And so that's what I did. Eventually, one person asked, how did you quit drinking? And I said, that I came to terms of the drinking wasn't for me anymore, so I quit. But it took a lot of discipline, and it does take lots of discipline, lots of hard work. It's not just an hour meeting, 2 hour meeting, meeting in the afternoon, meeting in the evening. It's not like that. It's day in and day out. Put every thought into reading the big book, going to meetings. That's what I did. And eventually, I bring coffee and a sandwich to the band members that were living on the street and sitting with them, having a coffee with them, and having my lunch as well. So and I managed to help 3 people quit drinking, and they're still not drinking, and they're helping people. And that's the way what you do. You help one person, and that person helps somebody, and so on and so forth. That you carry on the tradition. I gave them, some of these people, big books or literature and things, and drove them to meetings. Other things that I do is I'm a driver for our band members in Gold River, BC. I drove people to pick them up for shopping, and I drive them to Superstore, Walmart, because it's never, you don't just bring the son or daughter, everybody in the family has to come, including Grandma, because it's Grandma that's paying for everything. So we go take them shopping, and the first one I took was my first cousin. Took her shopping with her 2 boys, whom I actually advocated for her in court to get her 2 boys back, and because she was taken out of her home by social service, so her sons were taken. And then when her son got a girlfriend, when as he got older, got a girlfriend, and they were living together. They had a baby girl, so the service took them away. Said to my first cousin, well, I can help you as an advocate. So that's what I did. And social service lied, saying that the husband is a drunk. He's nothing but trouble. He doesn't do anything with his life, and the mother is not any better. She doesn't know how to be a mother, doesn't care, and she's messy and doesn't clean the house and doesn't do anything with her life. And this is what I always tell people when I advocate for people like this. You take a picture through and through out the house of everything, because of course you're interested in mostly 3 things: a clean fridge, a clean bathroom, and a clean bedroom where the kids stay, as well as other places in the house and the front yard or yard house. That's what they did. By the time we get to court, they had a book of 32 pages of pictures, what they do, whether it's Christmas, birthdays, anniversaries, grandma coming over, the child's first words. Anyways, they asked my case cousin, well, do you have a lawyer? And he said, no, I have my advocate. And so the judge calls me up, and he was prejudiced as it was towards First Nations people. And he says, what say you about him? I said, well, I never had a father because my dad died when I was for him. If I ever had a father, it would be him, because he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't do drugs, always helps his mom. That's what I always remember about him, is that when he was a little boy, Mommy cleaned up the toys. He went behind her to clean up the toys. Mommy did dishes, so he would try to sit on the chair, and Mommy would hand him the plate, and he would put the plate on the counter. This is the kind of person he is, and he is still today. And he's loving, caring, compassionate. In spite of having not a father, he hasn't got a father, but he has a stepdad with his mom. He has always cared for his baby, always loved, and very gentle. When I saw him, when I finished, said, okay, I'm taking a 15-minute recess if you want to look at the big books like this, pictures, Christmas, birthdays, and it would say at the bottom, birthdays, whoever, grandma coming over, pictures of that, and everything, and So the judge came back after 15 minutes, and we sit there. The judge said, okay, you people have to go. We were the only ones. My first cousin, the person I'm representing, and myself. So we leave, and the judge reamed the social worker through and through on how she lied about my client. Anyways, the baby was given back eventually. The criteria was that he had to take a parenting course, and which he did. I picked him up, take him to parenting, and he had to do other things, and which he did. And eventually he gets his daughter back, and he still has his daughter, and now they have a son. That's get to that part. Today, I don't have a car. My car engine died. I haven't been driving for 2 or 3 months now. It's been a while. My life's going crazy. I want to go to the dollar store, and it's really hard to find people to drive us. When I go on Facebook to ask for a ride, it's very expensive to take a taxi. From our place to Superstore, it's almost $18, and it would be even more to go to we did go to Dollar. If you can help, I'll put a link in the description that if you can help, if you want to help, and if you can't help, to pray for us, donations towards helping to either buy an engine for our car. I originally wanted to buy another engine because I love my car. It's a 2004 Ford Focus with a design on it, and it's growling and it's facing towards the front. And so I thought, well, and that's how I bought the car. And so I put my own logo on with two little stick mans running from the wolf, and then I put the caption, be brave. And it's not being brave. The other thing I learned from AA is that I tell you that don't run from and don't be fearful of things, that to be brave, we need to face and to let go, like I did with the man that raped and almost killed me, from social service to the foster parents that threw me out, to face those and to forgive and to let go and to move on with that life. And so that's what everybody loved the car. One time I was driving on the express from Cam River to Courtney to go to an AA meeting. A black truck was following me, and I was like, what the heck is a black truck? Everybody's going 120, 100 bleep. I won't going by me, but his truck is staying behind me. And then he drives by me very slowly. A woman was going by filming me in my car, filming my car and taking pictures of the car because I had the wolf and Be Brave and the two stick man. Another story is I drove somebody to Victoria, and then on my way back I drove to Victoria, BC, and I drove back and I stopped in Brampton, BC to get gas, and these kids were looking at this $30,000 Porsche car going, oh wow, look at that car, wow, I wish I could have I was like, wow. I drive in. I drove in very slowly, and I drive out as a sports car was crossed away from me, and I drive in to get gas. And the kid stops the other kids on. Look at that car. Oh, wow. Oh, that car is neat. Well, the guy in a $30,000 car, $300 clothes on, puffy hair, and he's looking at me like old man Grinch. You know, I don't like to live rich. I don't like to have rich materials. I always say that I'm not any better than anybody else. You know, that I had not 59 years of sobriety, that I'm not any better than someone that had just quit 5 minutes ago if you're watching this. We're here to support. We're here to care. We're here to do what we can. And when I can't do things, I do help to find someone else to help. And that's the kind of things that Sylvia and I do. You know, Sylvia had her things going on in her life, and she never had a family herself. You know, put into the foster care system, you know, repeatedly abused in every which way. She was analyzed as schizophrenia. And when I met her, I didn't see schizophrenia. What I saw was love, care, and compassion. First day that we met, April 28, 2000, at 1:30 in the afternoon, I had lunch at Salvation Army, and I thought, well, what do I do now? So, well, I'll walk up to the church to see where it is. So I know where it is. I get up to the church and I knock on the door, hear this voice on there. What do you want? We're closed. I'm cleaning up. Go away. Come back tonight. I said, oh, okay. Ooh. So I walk away and I went around Nanaimo in a bus, and I'm praying over Nanaimo, wherever the bus went, and I get back to downtown, and it was supper time. So I went to have supper at Salvation Army. Well, those days, it was great. Wow, I needed to pay 75 cents for dinner, pork chop, potatoes, vegetables, dessert, something to drink, and wow, you know, it went up to $1. What do you mean $1? $1 for what? And Sylvia said, quiet, you're getting fat. Sylvia always, you know, had problems, and nobody loved her, and nobody wanted her, and we went for a drive one day, and we were going back to Campbell River on the express, and she's crying. I said, well, why are you crying? And she says, well, I want to thank you for helping me. You're the only one that's been around to help. I said, yeah, well, I love you. She says, why do you stick around me anyways? And she's crying, and I think, well, I married you because you bake cookies. So she thinks about it, she laughs. Today she's a much different person, specialist in Victoria, B.C. that Sylvia went to see was named Dr. Williams. He's retired now. We went to see him, and he sticks his head out the door and says, are we relatives? No. Sylvia said, no, because his name's Dr. Williams, and she's Sylvia Williams. And Sylvia laughs. And anyways, after a 3-day visit, after the doctor examined her, that it was determined that she's not schizophrenic, but rather post-traumatic stress, and put Sylvia at the highest level that could be of someone coming out of war. That's how bad it was. And the doctor said, how did you do it? He said, well, the support of my husband, and who always told me that to do dishes, or to do this, or to do that. And this is what I did, because you could only handle one thing at a time. And what I learned when I was living on my own, I was about 15, 16 years old. I was living in a basement house of a lady, and she asked if I could cut the grass, and she would pay me. And so that's what I did. I cut the grass, and as I was cutting grass, she came out to rake the grass alongside me when I was cutting. And I always felt that was strange, but she did it because she cared about me, and she cared about helping. And that's what I do today, and I maintain that attitude that whenever I tell people to do something, that I'm alongside with them to do it. And that's what I did. Sylvia's washed dishes and I dry. And Sylvia's much better today. This is her 14th year now. And then we still give out Christmas presents Christmas morning. And we go out Christmas morning this year, probably with a taxi if someone can donate a car or help us buy a car or an engine and everything. But that's it for me. I don't want to take up too much time, but I thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you very much.